Hey everyone, welcome back to Harp and Guitar, People and Music, and thanks for joining me here today for another episode of Whiskey's Blues Gumbo. This is the show where we take weird or strange sounding blues words or phrases, most especially from song lyrics, and we try to figure out what the heck they're talking about. And for today's episode, I thought we would roll the clocks way back. We're going to jump in that old time machine that we love to do around here at Harp and Guitar every once in a while. We're going to go back to the mid to late 1930s, and we're going to visit some song lyrics by the late great Mr. Robert Johnson himself. And these lyrics are also the song title, Stones in My Passway. Sometimes also known as, or also said as, Stones in My Pathway. But that subtle difference would give it two completely different meanings. Now, as Robert Johnson said it, it was stones in my passway. Now, Robert Johnson grew up, for the most part, in and around or close to Memphis, Tennessee, even though he's from Mississippi. His stepfamily, his half-sister and her parents and so on, they lived right in Memphis, Tennessee itself. Now, that whole area, Mississippi, Tennessee, that whole sort of southern sort of Gulf area, very close to Louisiana, especially New Orleans, Louisiana. Well, actually, all of Louisiana, just the way it's shaped. But Robert Johnson and many other blues artists spent a lot of time in Louisiana, just hoboing around and playing at juke joints or blues clubs or what have you. And Robert Johnson spent a lot of time playing in Louisiana, but he was also familiar with artists who hailed from that region, especially New Orleans. Guys that were an influence on Robert himself, guys like Alonzo Johnson, who's of an earlier generation than Robert, and no relation to Robert. But Alonzo Johnson was a great blues guitarist. He played 6-string and 12-string acoustic. He played in the sort of riverboat gigs as they went up and down the Mississippi River. He played in blues clubs. He played in brothels and juke joints. He was a recording artist. And he was from that area, and Robert was very influenced by Lonnie Johnson. And a lot of blues artists at that time period from that region used voodoo terminology in their song lyrics. And that's where the Stones in My Passway comes in. It actually sort of makes reference to or alludes to a voodoo curse or a voodoo spell. And that's when you take gopher dust, also known as goober dust, which is basically red clay, like those red bricks, red clay dust, and you sprinkle it along the bottom of a doorway, along the bottom threshold of let's say the door to somebody's house, and then say some kind of voodoo incantation or spell, and what that is supposed to do is curse the person so that when they try to step over that threshold, they either experience either physical pain or mental anguish or like a sort of a sense of fear or dread or panic, or they fall violently ill, or they're physically not able to actually step past no matter how hard they try. They got to go out a different door or climb out a window, basically. Now that's where the Stones in My Passway comes in. And the stone basically is, the crushed up red clay, the gopher dust, or goober dust. That's where that is also referred to as both. Now Stones in My Pathway has a similar meaning, but it doesn't really have the voodoo influence to it. Stones in My Pathway just is sort of a metaphor for somebody putting obstacles in your way as you're walking along your pathway through your life. And a lot of times blues lyrics discuss how, the artist puts himself in a situation in the song where the lyrics of the song talk about a story where he's in a love triangle or he's been jilted by his lover. And these are stones that are put up in his pathway to impede him moving forward in his life. But stones in the passway referring to a doorway or the threshold, and the stones being the most often that dust or that powder with a spell. So very similar origins, but completely different meanings, although kind of on the same wavelength. So there you have it, Stones in My Passway, a la Robert Johnson. And it actually occurs as an ongoing theme in other blues artists of that time period as well. So thank you very much for tuning in, joining us here at Harp and Guitar, People in Music, and for another episode of Whiskey's Blues Gumbo. On behalf of myself and my partner in crime here, Monk Music, thank you very much. Please do all the YouTube stuff. Of course, as always, let me know what you think. If you have anything you want me to discuss here, any kind of weird words or phrases that you'd like me to cover, let me know below. And until next time, take care and have a good one. Thanks.